If you're thinking about buying a new construction home in the San Antonio area, you do not want to miss this video. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer in San Antonio or a seasoned homeowner, you need to know that the process for buying a new construction home in the San Antonio area is completely different from buying a resale home. There are lots of moving parts to buying a new home and tons of scenarios and situations for you to look out for. Don't worry though, I'm here to guide you through the entire process of buying a brand new home in the San Antonio area, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. My name is Tammy Dominguez, and I help people find the best homes in the San Antonio area for their family. And I specialize in new construction homes in San Antonio. Whether you're moving to San Antonio or already living here, looking for a home that is already built or wanting to build from the dirt, I'm here to help you navigate the process and find the best deals on brand new homes in the San Antonio area. Just check out the description for all of my contact info and resources to help you with your process. The number one step in the process is to identify your location and budget. Some buyers think that the first step in buying a new construction home in San Antonio is choosing the builder. But actually, the first step is identifying the locations that will work best for you and figuring out your ideal budget. If we look at the map of San Antonio and where the concentration of new home communities are, that usually helps to narrow down options along with figuring out the budget that you have for your new home. As you can see here, there are the most amount of new home communities on the far west side of San Antonio and here northeast of San Antonio in the suburbs of Cibolo, Schertz, and especially New Braunfels, and quite a few options popping up here south of San Antonio as well. Now, if you're already living in San Antonio and familiar with these areas, you likely already have this decided. But if you're moving to San Antonio, then I'm happy to help you narrow down those options based on your needs and wants and what specifically you're looking for in the community. Then we're going to narrow it down even further. So let's say new homes in San Antonio that are less than 400,000. You have all these communities that may have options for you, and many of these communities have multiple builder options in them. So that's where we start looking into the specific builders that would work for you. And by the way, if you want to browse through this website that I'm looking at, I have it linked in the description for you. It's tons of the brand new home inventory in the San Antonio area, and you can add all kinds of filters and map searches to see options for yourself. It doesn't include 100% of builders or available inventory, only if they're part of this specific builder network. But it does let you see a majority of inventory, and then I'll have more options for you once we connect and talk about what you're needing. That leads me into step 2 of buying a new construction home in San Antonio, which is pinpointing your timeline and choosing a builder. These actually go hand in hand, because if you have a situation where you need to close and move into your home at a specific time, we will need to search for the builders that actually have options that match your timeline. Because we've already narrowed down by location, price range, and timeline, we are likely down to only 2, 3, maybe 4 builders that will have inventory to fit your needs. We'll schedule meetings with those builders and get the current inventory, pricing, and incentives. Then walking through the specific homes and home sites they have available will be the main determining factor. And by the way, if this information is helpful to you, make sure to like this video and leave me a comment so that I know to keep creating more content just like this about San Antonio new construction homes. Now let's talk about paying the earnest money. Most builders are going to require your earnest money to hold the home and lot before you sign the purchase agreement. The amount of the earnest money is going to depend on the builder, the community, how far along the home build process is, and what the market conditions are at that time. If it's a busy and competitive time for housing, the amount required may be higher, as the builder will want the security of taking the home off the market for you. I've seen earnest money amounts vary from $500 to $5,000. It really is just going to depend on the several different factors. This earnest money does get credited to you at the time of closing, either applied to your overall down payment or applied towards your closing costs if you don't have a down payment. The earnest money serves as protection for the builder and for you. It allows for you to prove to the builder that you have intention to buy the home, and so they take it off the market. It also helps to hold both parties responsible to the terms of the purchase agreement. If you, the buyer, breach any terms of this contract, you could be in jeopardy of forfeiting your earnest money. It all just depends on the terms of the purchase agreement that you sign. Now let's talk more about that agreement. Builder purchase agreements are typically sent electronically, which makes it very easy and convenient to sign. But I can't stress enough that you need to be aware of everything that you are signing. Once you've signed this purchase agreement, you are locked into the terms of that agreement. And a builder's purchase agreement is totally one-sided. It will always be in the best interest and protection of the builder. It's not likely that you'll ever be able to change these terms, even if you don't like them. Other than pricing and incentives, it's pretty much non-negotiable. So if you want to buy the home with that builder, you will have to sign their existing document. But you do want to know and understand what it is that you're agreeing to. Here are a few of the specifics that you'll want to know before signing, assuming that all of the numbers have already been discussed and negotiated. What happens if I can't close by the closing date? This is especially important if you have another home that you need to sell before closing on this home. If for some reason something doesn't go according to plan and that current home doesn't close in in time. It will impact the closing of your new home, of course, so you'll want to know the scenarios. Another possibility is if there's a delay in getting the loan approved. If you're using the builder's in-house lender, they will usually work with you on this. But if you're using an outside lender, you could be looking at daily fees for all of the days that closing is delayed because of the lender. And the lender does not typically pay those fees. What happens if I change my mind about the home? Maybe you found another option that worked out better, or your moving plans changed, the build process was taking too long. There are plenty of reasons that would make a buyer change their mind about the home, but you want to know what happens, but you want to know how that would play out. And this one is one that most buyers don't think about. Under what conditions would the builder be able to terminate the contract? This was actually something that came up in 2021 and 22. There was a massive home shortage and home builds were delayed by months and months because of supply and labor shortages. This caused buyers that were under contract for new construction homes to become very frustrated with the builders. If a builder felt that a buyer had become overly aggressive or abusive toward them, they would just terminate the contract and sell the home to another buyer. And their contract protected them. Why? Because a builder contract has terms to favor the builder. Either way, the main point you'll want to know is, how is your earnest money protected if the closing on this home never happens? The next step in buying a new construction home is talking about the lending process. Now, usually when looking for resale homes, the lender's pre-approval process happens before we even start shopping. But it looks a little different for buying a new construction home. If the builder allows you to sign the purchase agreement before you apply with the lender, they will still expect you to apply pretty much immediately after signing the agreement. This is to make sure that you are financially qualified to follow through with the agreement and purchase the home. You'll find that most, if not all, of the incentives that go along with buying a brand new home in the San Antonio area are usually only available if you use the builder's preferred lender for your mortgage loan. So it wouldn't really make sense for you to go out of your way to get approval from an outside lender unless you're planning to use that lender for the purchase, which is possible. You are entitled to use any lender that you choose, but you would likely forfeit some, if not all, of those incentives that are being offered by the builder. Now, sometimes it happens where the outside lender is able to match or at least get close to these incentives. So of course, it's still a great idea to find out this information ahead of time. There are some key points to using the in-house lender though. They're usually familiar with the builder's construction process and have regular updates and meetings with them to understand the timeline on your home. They have the current pricing information for their inventory homes and available incentives, which helps the lender to provide more accurate estimations for monthly payments, cash to close needed, etc. And they also usually have the necessary HOA information regarding transfer fees and quarterly dues. And being more familiar with the communities, they can better estimate the property taxes on the homes, even if the tax assessor hasn't quite updated to reflect the home on the lot yet. While your home is being completed, the lender will be working in the background to order the appraisal, get your loan ready for underwriting, and locking in your interest rate. This part of the process is very similar to buying a resale home, with the exception of the timing. If your home is too early in the build process, there won't be much for the lender to do until it's closer to completion. Now, we already talked about the main differences between the builder's in-house lender and an outside lender, but this part of the process can be where you may see the benefit in using an in-house lender. Because they are in constant communication with the builder and the builder's preferred title company, you will never have to hear, well, the builder didn't tell me that there was a delay with your ready date, or your lender didn't let us know that they didn't have final loan approval yet. So it really helps the communication process to be smoother between the lender, the builder, and the title company when they're already all working together on pretty much a daily basis. Let's talk about the home inspection. This process is going to look different for different phases of the build process, but let's focus on what that would be if you're considering a home that is nearing completion. There will likely only be one opportunity to hire an inspector for a third-party inspection. I highly recommend that all buyers have this done, no matter who the builder is, which community, or what the price point is. This is because no home, even a brand new one, is ever perfect. A licensed inspector will be able to check the major systems in the home to make sure that they are functioning as intended. They will check the roof construction, attic insulation, electrical outlets, and so many other things that you as the buyer may not think to check yourself. This will allow you to provide a list to the builder of all the major items that need to be corrected on the home before closing. This inspection will happen close to the time of home completion, or maybe 10 to 14 days before closing. There will also be a blue tape walkthrough and builder orientation around this time. This is different than the third-party inspection. It's your chance to walk the home with the builder and your realtor with a roll of blue tape to look over the finish out quality and any workmanship issues that you find. It is completely normal to find cosmetic issues and discrepancies, so you may see the whole house marked up in blue tape. Some builders will have already walked the home with their teams and have addressed many of these issues. Unfortunately, there are those builders that wait for the buyer to point out all the things that they're not happy with. Usually these issues are minor and fairly quick for them to address, like paint touch-ups, tightening a switch plate, or grout cleanup. But again, there are some situations where we have to really address major quality and workmanship concerns. I can think of a few of those builders that are guilty of this off the top of my head, but maybe that's for another video. If you guys would find that video helpful, just let me know in the comment. And one more thing I'm going to say on the topic of final inspection. Be aware that there are builders that will try to rush you to closing, even if everything is not completed as promised. They usually have incentives that are tied to closing on homes. I've heard horror stories about promises that were made to buyers to get them to close and then never fulfilled. Sometimes there could be a situation where it would make sense for this to happen. One scenario that I can think of is when they couldn't get the sod in place before closing because of several days of heavy rain. So it made sense for them to go ahead and close and wait for the weather to clear up. Or another is when we found a stove that was dented during our final walkthrough. They weren't able to have it replaced the same day, so the buyer agreed to close and allow for the swap out after closing. Just make sure to get all these promises in writing. And during this period of time, a week or so before closing, it's usually a good time to get the utilities transfer set up for water and electricity, as there can sometimes be a delay in getting that done. Also, you'll want to schedule for your trash and recycle bins to be delivered so that you can have them in time for your move-in date. Now to actually closing on the home. Usually on the morning of closing, or possibly the day before, you'll have a final walkthrough. This, of course, is where you walk the home one last time with your realtor and the builder to make sure the list from your blue tape walkthrough and the third-party inspection have been completed. You likely already have your closing time scheduled, so the next step for you is to go to the title company with your ID and your funds to close. This is the fun part where you get to sign all of the necessary paperwork to secure the mortgage and have the deed transferred. Once signing is complete, the official funding process happens. If you use the builder's in-house lender, this usually happens pretty quickly. And once funding is confirmed, they will give you the keys to your brand new home. Let's talk for a second about warranties. The warranty process for most builders is notoriously a pain to get handled. They all have different qualifications for what constitutes a warranty and how they get them resolved. You will, of course, notice things after your move-in that you didn't notice with any of your walkthroughs. That's completely normal, and my best advice here is to keep a list going of the items that need to be resolved if they aren't hazardous or emergency type situations, and then submit them all together in one batch. Also, I recommend to my new construction buyers to set a reminder in their phone's calendar for 9 to 10 months after closing to schedule another inspection. The reason that I suggest this is because the inspector will provide you with a list of corrections that you can provide to the builder as a warranty request before your 1-year warranty expires. Even if you had a third-party inspection done before closing, it is very possible that there have been a few changes that you would rather have the builder correct under the warranty than to have to correct yourself years down the road. This next part of the process is a little out of the order that you need to work in when buying a brand new home in the San Antonio area. But hear me out, because the most important part of all the process and the part that will set you up for success and less stress for all of these other steps is picking the right San Antonio realtor and new construction specialist to guide you through this process. And okay, yes, of course, I would love for you to choose me to work with. But whether it's me or someone else that you already know and trust, it's just so important for you to have your own representation for buying your new construction home. The sales reps in the builder's office are nice. They're friendly and professional and very knowledgeable, but they were hired by and work for the builder, not you. You deserve to have someone that is nice, friendly, knowledgeable, and all of those other things that is working on your behalf and looking out for your best interests. Now, we've talked about all the most important steps in buying a new construction home in San Antonio. Just know that I'm here to help you in any way that I can. If you have questions, need advice, or are ready to start looking for your brand new home in San Antonio, you can reach out to me however you like. All of my info is in the description below, along with tons of other resources. Now make sure to check out this video next to learn even more about the San Antonio new construction home process. See you in the next video.